There is a quiet revolution happening in the way we understand reality. Not just in science, not just in personal development, but at the mysterious intersection between the two. This revolution isn't loud. It's not hyped up with buzzwords or inflated promises. It doesn't sell you fantasies of effortless riches or magical affirmations. Instead, it offers something far more powerful: clarity. And with clarity comes precision. And with precision comes outcomes. You're not here to be told that your thoughts attract experiences. You've heard that story. You've tried that method. You've written the affirmations, envisioned the dream life, and wondered why some things still feel stuck, mysteriously out of reach, disconnected. This is the space where we move beyond feel-good manifesting slogans and into the architecture of consciousness itself. Today, we explore the concept of the quantum seed protocol, a framework inspired by Joseph Murphy's teachings, now illuminated through the lens of quantum science and consciousness mechanics. It is not about attracting outcomes. It's about tuning into specific frequencies that already correspond with the outcome you're targeting. Because the truth is simple. You're not summoning anything that isn't already present in the quantum field. You're collapsing probabilities into actuality through alignment, coherence, and a very precise type of energetic signal that your consciousness emits. So why do so many manifestation attempts fail? Because most people are working with diluted signals, scattered thoughts, mismatched emotions, desperate attachments. Their so-called intentions are vague, contradictory, or poorly encoded. Their inner frequency doesn't match the blueprint of what they say they want. They are forcing instead of planting. That's not how this system works. Think of reality as a probability field, an endless sea of potential outcomes, each one already existing in some quantum state. Think of your consciousness as a tuning fork. It doesn't summon or create out of nothing. It aligns. It resonates. And when the frequency of your internal state locks onto a matching probability, that probability becomes your experience. That is the collapse of the wave function. That is quantum selection. That is what Murphy was intuitively articulating decades ago when he said, "The subconscious mind accepts the dominant idea and brings it to pass." But this isn't just metaphysical poetry. It's mechanics. And the protocol begins with understanding your thoughts as seeds, each one a unit of potential, encoded with frequency, seeking fertile ground. In this series, we'll break down the exact architecture of Joseph Murphy's quantum seed protocol. We'll examine how to prepare the subconscious soil. We'll dissect the anatomy of a resonant thought. We'll address the role of emotion, repetition, body state, detachment, and more. This isn't theory for theory's sake. This is a user manual for tuning your consciousness with surgical precision. No more forcing, no more chasing, just clear signal, clean planting, and the collapse of reality around your alignment. Today, we begin with the first core insight, the hidden power of thought seeds. Thoughts are not just mental chatter. They are energetic signatures, firing in electromagnetic patterns across your neural networks and broadcasting subtle frequencies beyond the body. Every time a thought is felt with conviction, charged with emotional clarity, and sustained long enough to bypass the conscious gatekeeper, it enters what Murphy described as the subconscious mind. But in our updated framework, this isn't just a psychological archive. It's an interface, a living membrane between your internal frequency and the external probability field. This is where the metaphor of thought seeds becomes incredibly precise. Because seeds don't bloom instantly. They don't force their way to the surface. They don't beg, plead, or chase the sun. They contain in themselves everything they will ever become, if the conditions are right. That means every thought you allow to enter your subconscious is already carrying a kind of encoded destiny. What it becomes depends entirely on what surrounds it. Joseph Murphy famously said, "Every thought is a cause and every condition is an effect." But this wasn't a call to obsess over every fleeting mental image. It was a call to intentionality, to understand that some thoughts pass like shadows, and some thoughts, when planted in the right way, grow into entire realities. Here's the problem with the law of attraction model. It treats thoughts like magnets. That's not accurate. Magnets attract based on polarity. But your thoughts aren't magnetic, they are resonant. Resonance isn't attraction. It's alignment. Two frequencies vibrating at the same rate don't pull on each other. They become indistinguishable. The tuning fork analogy isn't poetic. It's literal. One fork begins to hum, and the other, if tuned the same, begins to hum with it. Not through effort, through resonance. So when you think a thought that matches the frequency of a certain reality, you don't attract it. You begin to embody the signature of that timeline. That timeline becomes accessible, like a channel that's suddenly clear of static. This is why precision is so important. If your thoughts are jumbled, scattered, vague, or loaded with doubt, they're not seeds. They're noise. Joseph Murphy's work hints at something even deeper, the reproductive nature of thought. In the same way that a seed, once planted, grows into something far beyond its size, your dominant thought, once accepted by the subconscious, produces effects exponentially larger than itself. It multiplies. It organizes. It shapes probability around its nature. Now let's connect this metaphor to science. Quantum field theory describes reality not as solid and fixed, but as a field of probabilities, an infinite web of possible states. Particles don't exist in fixed locations until they are observed. Until then, they're waves, potential, possibility. When an observer measures or focuses on a specific state, the wave collapses into that particle's actual position. That's quantum collapse. And this is the key. The observer's intent and frequency influence the outcome. Your consciousness is the observer. Your thought is the measuring device. And your emotion is the frequency tuner. When these three components align, you're not forcing the universe to do anything. You're selecting a probable outcome and collapsing it into reality. Now revisit the thought seed. It is your unit of conscious intent. When you hold it with clarity, saturate it with emotional resonance, and deposit it into the subconscious, without contradicting it later, it begins to restructure the field around you. It's not summoning anything. It's signaling. The signal becomes a magnet for matching events, resources, people, and probabilities, not through mysticism, but through coherence. Murphy was also clear that faith, a deep, non-negotiable certainty, was essential. Today, we can reinterpret that not as religious belief, but as neural and emotional consistency. In neuroscience, faith-like certainty creates neural patterns that persist across time, regardless of external contradiction. In quantum terms, that consistency is what sustains the seed's frequency long enough for the field to reorganize. So the thought must be clear, it must be emotionally encoded, and it must be consistent. These three pillars form the basic planting method. But there's another critical layer. Not all seeds thrive in the same soil, and this brings us to your subconscious, your personal quantum garden. Next, we will explore the role your subconscious plays in shaping which thought seeds grow, and which never sprout at all. There is a place within you that never sleeps. It doesn't speak in language. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't analyze, critique, or negotiate. It simply accepts and amplifies. This place is the subconscious. And it is the soil in which every quantum seed takes root. While much of personal development focuses on conscious thought, positive thinking, visualization, scripting, the real game is played in the subconscious realm. Because this is the layer of mind that speaks the same language as the quantum field. Frequency, emotion, imagery, repetition, and identity. The subconscious is not some passive vault that stores random memories. It's a dynamic interface between your inner world and the outer hologram of reality. Think of it as the tuner, the stabilizer, the mechanism that decides whether your thought seed grows into a physical outcome or withers into background noise. You don't consciously manifest. You program the subconscious, and it manifests. Now let's go deeper. The subconscious doesn't operate on logic. It's not analytical. It's obedient. Once an idea enters it with sufficient emotional charge, repetition, and clarity, it begins acting on it immediately. It doesn't judge whether the idea is good or bad, realistic or absurd. It simply receives, accepts, and executes. This is why affirmations work for some and fail for others. If the conscious mind says, "I am wealthy," but the subconscious mind is saturated with unworthiness, debt trauma, and emotional dissonance, the soil is rejecting the seed. The frequency match isn't happening. The internal resonance is scrambled. The field doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to what you are. So how do you recondition this quantum garden? First, understand that the subconscious is most accessible when the conscious mind is quiet. Specifically in hypnagogic states like early morning, just before sleep, during breathwork, and meditative stillness. These states slow down your brainwaves, dropping you from the analytical beta range into alpha or even theta, the frequency range where the subconscious is most impressionable. This is where real planting begins. In this receptive state, when you visualize an outcome clearly, feel it as emotionally true, and stay consistent across multiple sessions, your subconscious begins to embed the signal. This embedded signal is not just a stored memory. It becomes a directive, a new baseline frequency that the subconscious begins to reflect outward into your external life. And here's the catch. The subconscious reflects everything it receives, whether you're aware of it or not. That means your casual complaints, your self-deprecating jokes, your inner monologue of doubt. They are all seeds too. They are shaping your experience pixel by pixel. The subconscious has no off switch. It is always recording, always reflecting. This is why thought hygiene is not just spiritual rhetoric. It's quantum protocol. Let's relate this back to Joseph Murphy. In The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, he describes the subconscious as a builder that doesn't sleep. Whatever blueprint you give it, through thought, emotion, belief, it starts constructing. If you hand it a clear design, it builds with efficiency. If you hand it chaos, it improvises with what it has. Murphy emphasized the principle of mental congruence. You cannot speak one intention and feel another, then expect results. The subconscious doesn't respond to verbal language. It responds to energetic coherence. It reads the sum of your thoughts, feelings, and self-perception, not your affirmations alone. So your job is not to trick the subconscious with positive thinking. Your job is to train it with consistent, resonant input, to embed new frequencies until they replace the older ones. This is neuroplasticity on a quantum level. Now here's where the science meets the soil. In quantum biology, it's well established that the human nervous system emits electromagnetic signals, fields that influence not only internal function but external behavior and perception. The subconscious patterns you hold are not just internal. They shape the interference patterns between you and the quantum field. That interference pattern is your energetic signature, and it filters your access to certain probabilities, people, and paths. So if your subconscious mind is still carrying scarcity, fear, or identity trauma, even the most brilliant conscious intentions will clash with your signal. You'll keep picking timelines that echo your inner contradictions. You won't understand why things collapse at the last minute, why breakthroughs fade, why good ideas stall. It's not bad luck. It's field distortion. The soil is polluted, and polluted soil rejects seeds, no matter how beautifully planted they appear on the surface. So how do you cleanse the soil? Start with awareness. Begin tracking your habitual self-talk. Pay attention to automatic reactions. Uncover hidden beliefs around worthiness, success, health, money, love. These beliefs are not neutral, they are formative frequencies. Once seen, you can begin the process of deconstructing them. Then comes reconditioning. Use subconscious access states, early morning, pre-sleep, deep breath work, to install new thought patterns that feel true. Don't repeat hollow affirmations. Create immersive inner experiences. See yourself living the outcome. Feel the texture of that life. Saturate the moment with full-body belief. And then release it. Let the subconscious do its job. Don't dig up the seed to check if it's growing. Trust the programming. Observe your inner environment. Make sure the surrounding thoughts don't sabotage the new growth. The subconscious is the garden. You are the gardener, and thoughts are the seeds. But not all seeds grow equally. Some bloom instantly. Others need time. Some are already rooted in contradiction before they even hit the soil. This brings us to a vital insight. The strength of the seed depends on the precision of its encoding. Next, we will explore why most intentions fail, and how to create thought seeds so clean, so coherent, and so emotionally calibrated that they become inevitable realities. Every day, people set intentions. They write affirmations. They make vision boards. They focus their energy on goals. And still, months later, nothing has changed. Not because the process is flawed, but because the signal is distorted. This is where most models of manifestation break down. They focus on desire, but ignore resonance. They amplify hope, but neglect calibration. And in the language of quantum mechanics, that miscalibration is fatal. Let's break this down. A thought by itself is not enough. A desire, no matter how intense, does not automatically become reality. There is a very specific configuration that determines whether a thought seed becomes tangible. That configuration is called resonant precision. Resonant precision is the alignment of thought, emotion, belief, and identity into a unified frequency. When these are not aligned, your thought emits static, conflicting signals, and the field does not collapse into your desired outcome because the wave never stabilizes. You've experienced this before. You set an intention, but deep down you doubt it. You visualize success, but internally expect failure. You speak prosperity, but your nervous system still operates in scarcity. That's not manifestation. That's interference. Murphy warned against wishful thinking without conviction. He described the subconscious as loyal but literal. It won't override your core emotional state just because you repeated a phrase 30 times. It responds to vibrational coherence, not verbal repetition. That means if you say one thing but feel another, the subconscious follows the feeling. Now here's the key. Feelings are frequency coders. They assign electromagnetic charge to thoughts. When a thought is felt deeply and clearly, it becomes biologically and energetically charged. That charge gives it structure in the quantum field. It becomes stable enough to interact with potential outcomes. This is how resonance is achieved. So when you think of your goal, do you feel contraction or expansion? Do you feel relaxed certainty or anxious craving? These subtle cues determine the quality of your signal. And the quantum field responds not to what you want, but to what you signal consistently. This is where precision planting begins. It's not about forcing belief. It's about constructing a signal that is internally uncontested. First, the thought must be specific. Vague intentions produce vague results. I want to be successful is not a seed. It's a fog. Instead, you must formulate thoughts that are crisp, emotionally clear, and anchored in observable identity traits. Then, you must feel the emotional consequence of that thought being real. Not as a fantasy, but as a lived memory. The emotional coding is essential. It gives depth, color, and frequency to the thought. This is the part most people skip. They intellectualize the desire without emotional immersion. That's like designing a seed with no DNA. It won't grow. Next comes the belief audit. Scan yourself for contradictions. If you say you want abundance, but feel guilt around wealth, your subconscious will pick up the conflict. If you want love, but hold resentment, your signal weakens. The most powerful intentions are clean, clear, and unopposed. This requires honesty, not fantasy. If you find an internal contradiction, don't suppress it, restructure it. Use subconscious access points to install new emotional associations. Use scripting, mental rehearsal, and sensory anchoring to condition the body and mind into certainty. The subconscious only activates what it accepts as true. Once you've constructed a thought seed with clarity, emotional charge, and clean beliefs, it becomes stable in the field. But even then, it needs one more element to take root: identity coherence. Because if your current self-identity doesn't match the outcome you're aiming for, the signal collapses. The subconscious defers to the dominant identity. This is why you can visualize success daily and still sabotage it, because you haven't become the version of yourself who lives that success. Thoughts must be encoded with the self-perception of someone who already has what you're targeting. Not as fantasy, but as memory. That is what creates the resonance loop. Let's recap the formula of resonant precision. Clarity, the thought is specific and definable. Emotional encoding, the thought is saturated with lived feeling. Belief alignment, no internal contradiction exists. Identity match, the thought matches who you already believe you are. When these four variables are in harmony, your intention stops being a wish and becomes a directive. It transmits a stable frequency. The field responds with matching conditions. No need to force. No need to plead. Just precision. Next, we will unpack what the field actually responds to, why your words are ignored, and how your true signal is determined by what you vibrate emotionally, energetically, and somatically. You can say all the right things. You can speak affirmations every morning, write out your goals in elegant calligraphy, and set intentions with impeccable phrasing. But none of that guarantees a single thing will change, because reality doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your vibration. Vibration is not a metaphor. It is the measurable state of your emotional, neurological, and electromagnetic signature. Your vibration is the sum total of how you feel, how you expect, how you react, and how you identify. It operates beneath your surface thoughts. It is not what you say, it is what you truly are most of the time. This is the signal the quantum field responds to. When Joseph Murphy emphasized that the subconscious mind produces results based on dominant thoughts, he was pointing to the vibrational frequency embedded in those thoughts, not just their surface content. The emotional tone, the depth of conviction, the embodied expectation. This is why so many intentions fail to produce results. The signal being emitted is out of sync with the result being asked for. The thought might say one thing, but the vibration says something entirely different. And the field always obeys the vibration. Let's make this concrete. Suppose someone declares, "I am abundant," but inside, they feel constricted, desperate, unworthy. Their nervous system is operating in a frequency of lack. That contradiction scrambles the signal. The thought becomes noise. The field does not align. Now imagine another person quietly holding a sense of calm trust, rooted security, and an inner knowing that all is well. They may not say anything out loud, but their entire vibration broadcasts the signature of abundance. They are stable. They are coherent. They are matched. It is the second person, not the one with the louder words, who will begin seeing external confirmations, because they are tuned to the frequency of the reality they are targeting. Let's now translate this to physics. In quantum theory, all matter arises from vibrating energy fields. Particles are not static, they are oscillations. Everything, including you, exists as patterns of vibration within larger fields of potential. And frequency determines form. A change in frequency literally alters the behavior of the system. This is not pseudoscience. It's foundational. Electrons orbit differently depending on the energy levels present. Molecules bond or repel depending on frequency dynamics. Biological systems regulate themselves based on vibratory information. So when you emit a frequency consistently through thought, feeling, posture, and belief, you are not just thinking positively. You are interfacing with the structure of reality itself. You are broadcasting a specific waveform into a field of infinite possibilities. And that waveform selects which possibilities become visible, accessible, and stable. Murphy didn't have the language of quantum coherence, but he pointed to it intuitively. He taught that the subconscious responds to feeling-backed thought. That's another way of saying vibrationally encoded thought. The kind of thought that resonates, that hums with internal truth, that reverberates through the nervous system and becomes indistinguishable from identity. This is why feeling is not optional in manifestation. It's not icing. It's the mechanism. Now consider this. Everything you desire already exists in some frequency range. Wealth, health, freedom, love. These are not events. They are states. And each state exists at a specific energetic signature. So your task is not to chase these states, but to match them. To become coherent with the reality where these outcomes already exist. The field doesn't make decisions. It reflects patterns. It collapses probabilities based on the tuning you emit most consistently. Here's the mistake most people make. They try to change their outcomes by adjusting behavior alone. They take more action, try harder, work longer. But the vibration hasn't changed. The signal is still chaotic. And so the field doesn't stabilize around the outcome. This leads to burnout, frustration, confusion. You feel like you're doing everything right, but nothing is moving. The problem isn't your effort, it's your signal. Vibrational coherence is not about hype. It's not about high energy or constant positivity. It's about stability. A clear signal is one that doesn't waver. It is emotionally steady. It is neurologically consistent. It is congruent with the version of you that already lives the desired outcome. This is why body state matters. The nervous system is part of your broadcast mechanism. If your body is in fight or flight, your thoughts will be distorted. Your emotions will be reactive. Your signal will flicker. So calming the nervous system through breath, stillness, posture, environment is not just a wellness habit. It's an energetic strategy. Clears the channel. It sharpens the signal. It allows your vibrational message to reach the field without static. Now ask yourself, what does the reality I desire feel like? Not just what it looks like, what it feels like, internally. Begin practicing that state. Not to impress the universe, but to tune your field. That internal state becomes your access key. The more you practice it, the more you reinforce the frequency. The more you reinforce the frequency, the more the field collapses around that version of you. Let's put this into a simple protocol. Clarify the desired state. Define not the thing you want, but the version of you that already has it. Identify the frequency of that version. How do they feel? What do they expect? How do they carry themselves? Simulate that frequency. Use breath, posture, visualization, emotional anchoring, and internal dialogue to practice it. Sustain the signal. Make it your baseline, not just a special session, but a default setting. Eliminate interference. Catch and neutralize thoughts, feelings, or habits that break the signal. You're not asking reality to give you something. You're becoming someone whose vibration is non-negotiably matched to that something. And once that happens, reality has no choice but to comply. Next, we will address the critical moment when thought becomes outcome, when the field stops flickering and a specific timeline solidifies into your lived experience. There is a moment in every successful manifestation that few people recognize. It's not when the outcome appears. It's not when the effort peaks. It's not even when the intention is first set. It's the moment when the field collapses, when all other probabilities dissolve, and a singular outcome becomes dominant. This is not philosophy. It's physics. In quantum mechanics, the collapse of the wave function is the transition from probability to actuality. Until this collapse, all possibilities coexist as waves. When observation occurs, especially consistent observation with energy behind it, the wave collapses into a single outcome. This is the moment reality crystallizes. In consciousness terms, collapse occurs when your internal frequency locks in, when your identity, emotion, belief, and focus stabilize around a specific version of reality. At that point, the field stops shifting. It settles. And what was once a possibility becomes an inevitability. Joseph Murphy taught that once the subconscious accepts an idea, it begins expressing it without resistance. That's another way of describing collapse. The idea is no longer just mental. It has become your dominant frequency. And from that point forward, everything reorganizes around it. Let's walk through how this happens. First, you form a clear, emotionally backed thought. You feed it into the subconscious using repetition, emotional immersion, and identity reinforcement. You hold the feeling of its truth long enough that it becomes familiar. At a certain threshold, the body and mind stop resisting. The thought becomes normal. The nervous system adapts. The inner objections dissolve. The emotion stabilizes. This is the convergence point. The wave is no longer vibrating across many possibilities. It has narrowed. It has chosen. And the external world begins to reflect that choice. Not randomly, not all at once, but inevitably. This is why some manifestations seem to suddenly happen. The outer shift is just the final echo. The real change happened inside when the collapse occurred. The results lag behind the vibration, but they're coming. Because the field is now responding to a dominant signal. Now consider the opposite. A person thinks of what they want, but can't hold the feeling. They keep checking for results. They question the process. They oscillate between trust and doubt. That's not collapse. That's incoherence. The wave never stabilizes. The signal flickers. The field stays open but uncommitted. And the desired timeline never locks in. It remains an option, not a destination. This explains the phenomenon of almost manifestations. Close calls, brief breakthroughs, temporary wins. The field begins to move, but the signal loses strength. The vibration collapses back to default. The probability evaporates. The timeline collapses into something else. So how do you create intentional collapse? By sustained frequency coherence. That means maintaining the internal state of your desired outcome long enough and cleanly enough for the field to reflect it back as your dominant path. It's not about intensity. It's about stability. You don't need to feel ecstasy or supercharged excitement. You need to feel alignment, quiet confidence, steady trust. That is the energy of collapse. Think of a laser. It's not more light. It's focused light. Aligned wavelengths. That's why it cuts through steel. Your thought becomes a laser when your vibration becomes steady, when all parts of you are broadcasting the same frequency. That's when reality bends. Now let's make this practical. The moment of collapse can be sensed. It often feels like a click inside, a settling, a release of urgency. You stop needing the result because something in you already knows it's done. That's not apathy. It's coherence. You've locked in. The frequency is holding. And from that point on, your job is simple. Maintain the signal, eliminate doubt, act in alignment, and stay open. Results will come, not because you forced them, but because the field no longer has any other option. You've collapsed all other paths. That's the quantum signature of manifestation. Next, we will examine how to reprogram the field itself, using repetition, affirmation, and energetic reinforcement to override inherited patterns and install a new quantum blueprint. The field does not reward intensity, it rewards consistency. This is one of the most misunderstood truths in quantum creation. People often chase peak states, emotional highs, and breakthrough moments, thinking that one epic visualization will override a lifetime of internal programming. But that's not how the subconscious works. And it's definitely not how the field stabilizes. The subconscious is a machine of pattern recognition. It operates on inputs that are consistent, repetitive, and emotionally weighted. Repetition, when paired with belief and embodiment, becomes a form of programming. It trains the subconscious to accept a new dominant frequency. That frequency, when sustained, then becomes your new access point to the field. Joseph Murphy understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. He taught that the subconscious is reprogrammed through autosuggestion, a method of self-induced thought loops that, over time, embed new assumptions into the mind. These assumptions don't just stay internal. They leak into your posture, your language, your choices, your energy. In the context of quantum reality, those embedded assumptions become your operating frequency. Let's break this down into mechanics. Every thought you think emits a weak electromagnetic pulse. On its own, it's inconsequential. But when you repeat that thought, especially with emotional charge, it begins to form a neural pathway. That pathway becomes more efficient with each repetition. Eventually, it shifts from a conscious thought to an automatic pattern. The moment a thought becomes automatic, it has entered the realm of the subconscious. This is the gateway point. From here, your vibration begins to shift, not just because of the thought itself, but because of the identity state it supports. You begin to act, feel, and react in ways that reinforce the pattern. And that's when the field takes notice. Because the field doesn't care about your goals. It responds to your patterns. If your internal pattern is self-doubt, then that's the signal. If it's abundance and worthiness, then that becomes the signal. Repetition is the mechanism that moves you from conscious desire to unconscious broadcasting. Now here's the nuance. Repetition without emotion is ineffective. Saying an affirmation 100 times without belief or feeling is just linguistic noise. It doesn't reach the subconscious. It doesn't alter your frequency. But when repetition is paired with emotion, especially in relaxed, suggestible states, it becomes exponentially more powerful. That's why early morning, right before sleep, or during light trance states are so important. These are the moments when your brainwaves shift into alpha and theta ranges. The subconscious becomes receptive. The conscious gatekeeper steps aside, and the seed can be planted. Murphy emphasized this again and again. Speak to yourself before bed. Visualize the outcome in vivid detail. Let the final thought before sleep be the one you want to manifest. The subconscious never sleeps. It works through the night on whatever material you give it. So when you plant a thought right before drifting off, you are giving your subconscious a blueprint to work with. Here's what this looks like in practice. Choose a clear outcome. Specificity matters. You're not just repeating a phrase, you're reinforcing a frequency. Design a short, emotionally charged statement. This is your seed phrase. It should reflect the identity and outcome you desire. Pair the phrase with imagery. Visualize as you say it. See yourself living the outcome. Add emotion. Don't just see it. Feel it. Let your body experience the result as real. Repeat it daily, morning and night, always in a relaxed state, always with presence. Done consistently, this creates a vibrational groove. The signal strengthens. The subconscious begins to adapt, and the field receives a coherent transmission. Now let's address the doubt that often creeps in. People ask, can I really change my life just by repeating thoughts? Not by repeating them like a robot. But yes, if you do it with presence, emotion, and consistency. The brain is plastic. The field is probabilistic. Reality is not fixed. It is malleable under the influence of focused consciousness. Scientific studies on neuroplasticity have confirmed what Murphy taught. The brain physically changes based on repetitive thought and feeling. Neurons that fire together wire together. Emotional charge makes the wiring more durable. The more often you practice a thought-emotion loop, the more automatic it becomes. The more automatic it becomes, the more your nervous system behaves as if it were already true. And when the nervous system believes something is true, the subconscious accepts it. And when the subconscious accepts it, the field reorganizes around it. This is how repetition becomes transformation. But there's another layer. And it's subtle. If you repeat an affirmation out of fear or lack, you amplify fear and lack. The emotional context of your repetition matters. If your intention feels like desperation, your signal becomes desperation. So repetition must be clean, grounded, certain. It must not carry a frequency of craving or begging. That scrambles the field. It destabilizes the wave. Instead, speak your affirmations from a place of inner knowing. Calm expectation, not demanding the result, but aligning with the version of you that already has it. That internal posture makes all the difference. Now, there's one final piece, reinforcement. Once you've embedded a new pattern, you must reinforce it through behavior. Not because the field needs proof, but because your identity needs anchoring. Thoughts become beliefs. Beliefs become identity. Identity drives behavior. And behavior feeds back into belief. So after planting the seed through repetition, begin acting as if the pattern is true. Not to fake it, but to lock it in. When your behavior matches your internal signal, the subconscious stabilizes. The frequency becomes dominant, and the field responds. Repetition creates the pathway. Action locks the frequency. This is not metaphysics. It's the rewiring of your quantum interface. Next, we will examine what happens when your thought pattern is clean, but a single rogue doubt begins to unravel everything. There is a silent saboteur in the process of reality creation. It's not laziness. It's not ignorance. It's not even lack of effort. It's doubt. Doubt isn't just a passing thought. It's a counterfrequency. And in the language of quantum creation, a counterfrequency is not neutral, it is destructive. Think of your intention as a clear signal. You've repeated it. You've felt it. You've visualized it. The subconscious is beginning to adapt. The field is starting to respond. Then, suddenly, a thought sneaks in. What if this doesn't work? What if I'm wasting my time? What if I never get it? That one thought, if charged with enough emotion, acts like static in your signal. It introduces decoherence. And decoherence is the enemy of manifestation. In quantum physics, decoherence refers to the breakdown of a stable quantum system. When a coherent wave becomes disrupted through interference, observation, or instability, it loses its integrity. The system collapses prematurely or never stabilizes at all. This is exactly what happens when doubt enters your frequency. You've spent days or weeks planting a specific thought seed. You've been feeding it repetition, emotion, identity reinforcement. The seed is forming roots. Then doubt steps in and begins pulling at those roots. If unchecked, it can reverse the process entirely. The subconscious returns to its old blueprint. The nervous system reverts to its default state. The field receives a mixed signal, and the probability collapses back to baseline. That's not punishment. That's physics. Murphy warned that faith and fear are two sides of the same mechanism. Both are forms of emotional expectation. Both engage the subconscious, and whichever one dominates wins. So if doubt becomes your dominant state, your subconscious will act on it. It will express it. It will manifest situations that match it. The field will respond with chaotic or delayed outcomes, not because your desire was wrong, but because your signal became unstable. This is why thought hygiene is essential. Not perfection, but awareness. You cannot afford to let rogue thoughts run unchecked. Every mental pattern is either reinforcing your frequency or eroding it. Here's how to take control. Identify recurring doubt loops. These are thoughts that arise during silence, challenge, or impatience. Interrupt the pattern. Use breath, movement, or mantra to disrupt the loop. Replace with a stabilizing statement. Something that reflects your chosen identity, not just your hope. Feel the replacement. Let the new thought carry emotional charge. That's what imprints it. Return to coherence. Bring your focus back to the intended signal. Re-enter the frequency. This practice isn't about suppressing thought. It's about selective reinforcement. You are choosing which seeds grow. You are deciding which frequencies dominate. There's another common trap: conditional doubt. This is when belief is tied to evidence. I'll believe it's working once I see results. This approach is inverted. It puts observation before frequency. But the field doesn't respond to observation, it responds to signal. The results come after belief, not before. So when you withhold belief until something shows up, you delay the outcome indefinitely. The field can't stabilize. The subconscious remains unconvinced. You stay in a state of energetic suspension. That's the loop that keeps people stuck for years. The antidote is unconditional alignment. Holding your frequency without proof. Maintaining the signal without reassurance. Trusting the field before the confirmation. That's the mark of mastery. Murphy once wrote, "Your subconscious will accept whatever you believe to be true, not what is true, but what you assume is true." This is the key to clean planting. Doubt is a form of negative assumption. Carries its own signal. It becomes a self-fulfilling loop. So your mission is not to fight doubt, but to starve it. Deny it energy. Refuse to rehearse it. Redirect your attention every time it arises. Not with force, but with choice. You are the curator of your signal, and the field only reflects what you curate most consistently. Here's a final tool. Install meta-beliefs. These are beliefs about your own beliefs. They help shield you from doubt attacks. For example, every thought I choose moves me closer to my outcome. The field responds to my signal, not to time or circumstance. My inner alignment is more powerful than any external condition. When you repeat these, they become default scripts. They activate during stressful moments. They become the immune system of your thought seed. That's thought hygiene at the quantum level. Next, we will explore how to reinforce your signal through the body, and why no seed becomes reality until the body begins to believe it too. Thoughts may start the process. Emotions may charge it. But it's your body that locks it in. No thought seed takes root until the body believes it's real. And not metaphorically, but neurologically, hormonally, and behaviorally. This is one of the most overlooked truths in reality creation. You can have the clearest visualization, the most emotionally charged affirmation, and even momentary coherence. But unless your somatic system, the felt experience of your physical body, accepts the new identity, the frequency will never stabilize. This is what Joseph Murphy implied when he said, "Feeling is the secret, because the body is where the subconscious lives, and the subconscious is what manifests." Let's demystify this. Your body is not a passive vehicle. It's a memory system. Every emotional pattern, every belief, every traumatic loop, it's stored in muscle tension, hormonal chemistry, and autonomic habits. Your breath patterns, your posture, your gestures, they all reflect your current identity state. So if you're planting a thought seed for wealth, but your shoulders are slumped, your breath is shallow, your jaw is clenched, you're not in the right frequency. Your somatic system is still wired for survival, not expansion. This mismatch creates signal interference. The subconscious reads the body's message, not the mind's intentions. The field responds accordingly. Murphy's work didn't explicitly name this, but he understood it intuitively. When he prescribed sleep state affirmations, it wasn't just to bypass the conscious mind. It was to reach the body-brain, to allow the thought to saturate your nervous system in the most impressionable state. Today, neuroscience confirms this. The body is the subconscious mind. The enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve, hormonal feedback loops, all of these process emotion faster and more effectively than the rational brain. When you change the body's baseline state, you change the subconscious signal. This is the principle of somatic lock-in. Somatic lock-in is the process of embodying a new identity at the biological level. It's how you move from temporary inspiration to permanent frequency. It's how the thought seed becomes rooted. Here's how it works. Identify the identity state you are cultivating. Not the goal, but the version of you who already lives it. Get specific. Ask, how does that version breathe? Stand? Speak? Move? Begin practicing those physical behaviors. Not to fake it, but to teach your body what normal feels like at that new frequency. Your nervous system will resist at first. That's expected. It's protecting your previous programming. But repetition, especially with emotional consistency, begins to shift the baseline. Over time, your posture changes. Your voice changes. Your facial expressions soften. Your breathing deepens. You enter coherence. And that's the signal the field responds to. Let's go deeper. In somatic psychology, there's a concept called interoception, your internal perception of bodily states. People with high interoceptive awareness can detect subtle shifts in tension, heart rate, and emotion. This sensitivity is a superpower in manifestation. Because the more aware you are of your baseline physical state, the faster you can catch when you've dropped out of alignment. You'll feel when you've slipped into scarcity. You'll notice when your breath has tightened. You'll catch yourself hunching, tensing, or shrinking, and that awareness allows for rapid correction. Somatic lock-in isn't about perfection. It's about consistency of correction. Every time you realign your body to the frequency of your target identity, you reinforce the signal. You tell the subconscious, this is safe, this is familiar, this is who I am now. That's how seeds grow into traits. Here's a sample protocol for somatic lock-in. Morning. Upon waking, stand in the posture of your target identity. Grounded, shoulders back, spine tall. Speak an affirmation while holding that posture. Throughout the day, periodically check breath, posture, and tone. Ask, does this match the frequency I'm cultivating? Movement rituals. Use embodied practices like intentional walking, dance, or breathwork to charge the body with the target frequency. Before sleep, lie in bed as if you just completed the day as your new identity. Rehearse the sensations in your body. Let it imprint. These small shifts accumulate. They form a new somatic language. One that speaks louder than thoughts. One that the field recognizes immediately. But let's be clear. This isn't a performance. It's not about pretending or faking confidence. It's about training your nervous system into a new normal. Confidence, abundance, ease, they are not attitudes. They are frequencies of familiarity. If your body gets used to the feeling, the subconscious locks it in. Once locked in, the field begins returning that identity in the form of circumstances, people, and timelines. Murphy often said, "You are what you feel." Somatic lockin makes this literal. Because when the body believes it, the world reflects it. Next, we will explore the paradox at the heart of all creation. Why letting go, not holding on, is what activates the field most powerfully. After all the planting, rehearsing, charging, and aligning, there comes a moment where you must stop. Not give up, not retreat, but release. This is the moment of stillness. And it is the most powerful part of the entire process. Because manifestation is not completed through force. It is completed through detachment. Detachment is not disinterest. It's not apathy. It's not passive resignation. It is the energetic surrender that says, "This is already done. I no longer need to push. I no longer need to control. I am now aligned with the version of reality where this exists." And in that still point, where effort ceases and frequency holds, collapse occurs. This is deeply counterintuitive for most people. We're taught to hustle, to control, to grip outcomes with emotional tension. But the quantum field doesn't respond to tension. It responds to resonance without interference. Effort, when excessive, becomes noise. It introduces frequency instability. It sends the signal, "This isn't real yet. I don't believe it. I have to fight for it." And the field listens. But when you let go, not from defeat, but from inner knowing, the field receives a stable, uninterrupted signal. No more mixed messages. No more static. This is why letting go is not optional. It is the completion of the seed's transmission. Joseph Murphy repeatedly emphasized the necessity of trust. He advised readers to sleep in peace after making their declarations, to stop trying to figure out how it would happen, to surrender the mechanism and trust the subconscious to orchestrate the conditions. This is another way of saying, let the field do its job. Once you've tuned your signal, it's time to stop adjusting the dial. The work is no longer mental, it's energetic. Your job becomes to maintain the frequency without micromanaging the form. Because when you grip the form, you block the outcome. Let's clarify a common confusion. Letting go doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your action is no longer desperate. You're no longer trying to prove anything. You're no longer acting from urgency. Your actions now come from identity, not insecurity. That is the difference between control and coherence. Control is rooted in fear. I must make this happen. Coherence is rooted in trust. This is already happening through me. The more you operate from coherence, the faster the external aligns. Here's the energetic mechanism behind this. When you're charged with attachment, your nervous system remains in a beta-dominant state. High alert, scanning, doubting. This constricts your field. It limits your perceptual range. You miss signals, resources, and synchronicities. But when you release the charge, when you enter the still point, your nervous system shifts. Brainwaves slow. The parasympathetic system activates. Your field expands. You become receptive. You become magnetic, not by force, but by relaxation into alignment. This is when things begin to move on their own. Emails arrive. People show up. Ideas click. Not because you chased them, but because your frequency allowed them. That's the field at work. Now let's break down the practice of letting go. Complete your signal. Do the planting. Align the thought, emotion, and identity. Enter stillness. Use breath, nature, or silence to release emotional charge. Firm trust. Internally repeat, "It is done," not as hope, but as fact. Redirect attention. Focus on presence, enjoyment, creativity. Let the outcome fade from obsessive awareness. Maintain availability. Stay open to action, but without needing it to prove anything. Letting go is an act of energetic availability, not passivity. It's how you tell the field, "I'm ready for this. I don't need to force it. I'm already the version of myself that this belongs to." Murphy called this the art of confident expectancy, holding a quiet knowing that what you've planted is already growing, out of sight, but not out of reach. This is the final paradox. Your seed blooms when you stop staring at the soil, when you stop questioning its growth, when you stop interfering with its timeline, when you stop demanding proof. You've already aligned. You've already planted. You've already become. Now trust the field. Trust the mechanics. Trust the stillness. Next, we will explore how reality itself is structured in layers of probabilities, and how your vibration determines which timeline becomes your lived experience. Reality isn't a straight line. It's not a sequence of cause and effect events you move through in a single direction. It's a field, layered, multidimensional, rich with variation. And within that field, every possible version of you already exists. This isn't science fiction. It's quantum logic. You are not trying to create a future that doesn't exist. You are selecting a version of reality that's already encoded within the probabilistic matrix of the quantum field. The process of manifesting is not invention, it's alignment. When your internal frequency matches the signal of a specific version of reality, your experience shifts accordingly. This is timeline surfing. Joseph Murphy didn't use that phrase, but when he spoke about the power of belief to instantly shift external outcomes, he was describing it. When he said that a change in your mental picture causes the world to respond in kind, he was speaking about this quantum dynamic. In classical terms, you are one person in one life heading in one direction. But in quantum terms, you are a field of overlapping possibilities, each defined by your current frequency. Some timelines include wealth, health, fulfillment. Others include stagnation, confusion, contraction. Which timeline becomes your lived experience depends entirely on which one you resonate with. This means your desired future isn't a distant point you're working toward. It's a probability field you can lock into now. Let's illustrate this. Visualize a horizontal band stretching out in front of you. Each band represents a different timeline, a different version of your life. The timelines are stacked closely, like radio stations. From the outside, they all look parallel, but the experiences within them are radically different. Now imagine that your frequency, your emotional, cognitive, and behavioral pattern, is like a radio dial. As you turn the dial, you begin to pick up different stations, different versions of life, different outcomes. The station doesn't move closer to you. You move closer to it by matching its frequency. That's what timeline surfing is, the conscious selection of a probable future by locking in its energetic signature. Here's the key. The future version of you who already lives the outcome you desire is not imagining it. They are living it. That version thinks differently, feels differently, moves differently, not because they forced it, but because the frequency match already occurred. Your task is not to chase that version, but to become coherent with it. And coherence means thinking the thoughts they think, feeling the emotions they feel, making the choices they would make, acting as they act now, not later. Every time you operate from that version of you, you strengthen the signal. Every time you revert to your default state, you strengthen your current timeline. Timeline surfing is the art of choosing identity as a form of navigation. Now consider this. The moment you choose to behave, feel, and think like the future version of you, not as a performance but as a baseline, you've shifted timelines. It may not be visible instantly. Reality operates with a slight lag. But internally, the signature has changed. You've locked into a new outcome. This is why physical reality often begins to reorganize after internal identity shifts. Old relationships fade. New opportunities appear. Prior interests fall away. This isn't random. It's the field adjusting to your new frequency. This is not wishful thinking. It's consistent with multiverse theory, superposition, and the role of the observer in quantum mechanics. Each version of you exists simultaneously. You don't create the future. You navigate the matrix of what already exists. So how do you begin surfing timelines consciously? First, stop looking at your current results as permanent. They are just the product of your current vibration. That vibration is changeable. Then, Construct a clear image of your desired timeline, not just the outcomes, but the version of yourself who lives them. Ask, how does that version wake up in the morning? What do they expect from the day? What do they tolerate and what do they release? How do they walk, speak, and decide? Next, practice micro-alignments. Begin matching that version in small, consistent ways. Change your tone. Upgrade your routines. Alter your inner dialogue. Every act of alignment is a shift. Every new habit is a vote for a new timeline. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. The more consistent you become, the more your external world mirrors the timeline you've selected. Here's a truth few accept at first. Your current reality is a habit, not a fact, not a fate, a vibrational habit you've practiced long enough that it became stable. And stability creates the illusion of permanence. But change the vibration, and the timeline destabilizes. The pattern collapses. A new one begins to form. This is why so many people experience periods of chaos before a breakthrough. The field is reorienting. The old reality is dissolving. The new one hasn't fully emerged. You're surfing between timelines mid-transition. Hold the signal during this phase. Don't revert. Don't panic. Stay aligned with the future, not the fading present. That is mastery. Here's the protocol. Choose your target timeline. Define the version of you who already lives your desired life. Embark on identity rehearsal. Think, feel, and act from that version as often as possible. Ignore temporary feedback. Reality lags behind frequency. Trust the delay. Hold through the wobble. Chaos is not failure, it's restructuring. Confirm new signals with action. Reinforce the shift through behavior. Murphy said, "The law of life is the law of belief." In this framework, belief is the mechanism by which timelines are accessed. You live what you believe is real. Change the belief and the timeline shifts accordingly. Next, we will turn to the daily cultivation of this process. The energetic rituals that nourish and support your frequency so it can remain stable long enough to bear fruit. You don't need more effort. You need better rituals. Planting thought seeds is not a one-time event. It's a daily relationship with your internal ecosystem. And like any intelligent garden, it requires rhythm, nourishment, and protection. Quantum gardening is the art of maintaining the vibrational environment that allows your chosen timelines to flourish. This is not just about mindset. It's about field management. If your internal field is full of contradiction, distraction, and emotional clutter, no matter how beautiful your intentions are, they won't grow. They'll get tangled, choked, outcompete by invasive thought patterns. The point of daily practice is not to make something happen. It's to clear interference. It's to stabilize signal. It's to support the soil in which your seeds have already been planted. This is frequency maintenance. Let's start with a foundational principle. Your environment reflects your internal field and also programs it. That means every day you're being influenced by energy inputs. The content you consume, the conversations you have, the spaces you inhabit, the self-talk you allow. If those inputs are chaotic, desperate, or fear-based, your inner garden becomes inhospitable. Your subconscious starts responding to distorted frequencies, and even the strongest thought seeds will wither. That's why your daily energetic hygiene matters. Here's how to structure it. Morning practice. Initiate the field. Begin the day before the noise begins. Your brain is still in theta or alpha states. Speak your seed affirmation out loud in your natural tone. No forcing. Visualize the identity you are choosing to align with. Feel it not as fantasy but as memory. Dwell in that state for 3 to 5 minutes. Breathe into the body as that version of you. This opens your signal. The subconscious receives the blueprint. The field gets your instruction for the day. Midday recalibration. Maintain the signal. Pause at least once for 60 seconds. Scan your internal field. Is there tension, doubt, drift? Reset posture, breath, and tone. Use a micro-affirmation that brings you back into coherence. I am stable. I am tuned. I am already living it. Return to activity from that reset point. This keeps your frequency from sliding into reactivity. Evening anchoring, lock in the outcome. Before sleep, enter a calm, non-stimulated state. Replay your day as if it was lived by the future version of you. Highlight the moments that matched the frequency. Reinforce gratitude not just for events but for alignment. Visualize one scene from the desired reality. Let it be your final input before sleep. Why? Because during sleep, the subconscious processes everything you handed it in the final minutes of waking. This becomes the signal it broadcasts overnight. Murphy taught that sleep was the gateway to the subconscious temple. You don't knock, you walk in with precision. Now add this principle. Protect your garden. Set boundaries around your attention. Avoid conversations that pull you out of alignment. Limit exposure to content that promotes lack, fear, or judgment. Audit your mental diet the same way you would your physical one. You wouldn't pour acid on your seedlings. Don't flood your subconscious with frequencies that contradict your signal. Finally, practice neutral observation. This means tracking your emotional responses not from judgment, but from awareness. If fear arises, note it. If self-doubt flares, witness it. Then return. Re-anchor. Reaffirm. Quantum gardening isn't about constant positivity. It's about stabilized intention. The field doesn't require perfection. It requires coherence. Here's a master pattern. Input. What are you feeding your field? Emotion. Are your feelings matching your chosen outcome? Correction. How quickly do you return to signal after drift? Consistency. Are you reinforcing this daily or relying on hype bursts? Identity. Are your practices building the version of you that already lives it? That's real manifestation. Not magic. Not wishing. Not hoping. Just daily alignment with the version of reality that's already real in the field. Quantum gardening is the method. Frequency is the soil. You are the farmer. Next, we bring it all home with the final truth at the core of this protocol. Precision over force. Everything you've learned so far points to one essential shift. One that completely redefines how you relate to reality, thought, energy, and personal power. That shift is this. Force is outdated. Precision is the future. We are not living in a cause and effect universe governed by brute effort alone. We are operating inside a field, a quantum matrix of probabilities, where your vibrational precision determines the outcomes you experience. This field doesn't reward the loudest, the busiest, or the most desperate. It responds to the clearest, most stable signal. The one that is consistent, coherent, uncontested. This is the frequency of the new creator. Not someone who begs reality to deliver, but someone who selects reality with surgical clarity. That's the essence of Joseph Murphy's quantum seed protocol. Murphy's writings may have been framed in spiritual language, but their structural mechanics are astonishingly compatible with modern quantum understanding. He taught that your subconscious mind is the gateway, the soil in which every seed of thought either flourishes or fails. He emphasized that feeling is the activator, that repetition creates identity, and that surrender is the final step in successful creation. But now, in the language of field theory, we see the deeper machinery. You're not just shaping outcomes, you're locking into probability fields. You are tuning your internal frequency to match timelines that already exist. Every thought you plant, every emotion you reinforce, every identity you inhabit, it's not just self-improvement. It's field navigation. You are a quantum tuner. Your signal selects your timeline, and your precision, not your willpower, is what activates it. Let's step back and synthesize everything. At the start of this process, we dismantled the old model of manifestation. The one that claimed that your thoughts attract things to you, as if outcomes were floating around like butterflies waiting to land on someone who thinks hard enough. That model was always incomplete. Thoughts don't attract. They tune. They don't summon from outside. They align with what already exists in the quantum field. That's why the goal isn't to think harder or feel more intensely. It's to get clearer, to broadcast with less noise, to stabilize your internal state so completely that the field has no choice but to mirror it back to you in physical form. This is where force becomes irrelevant and precision becomes king. Now consider everything we've covered. You learned that your thoughts are seeds, not vague ideas, but energetic codes. Each one carries a frequency that either stabilizes or dissolves based on the emotional charge and belief structure behind it. You saw how the subconscious acts as the soil. It doesn't care what you want. It reflects what you accept, believe, and repeat. You uncovered the crucial distinction between wishful thinking and resonant precision, where emotional clarity, identity coherence, and belief alignment combine into a stable signal. You grasped that reality doesn't respond to your words, but to your vibration. And vibration is built through feeling, body state, behavior, and repetition. You discovered that outcomes crystallize through the moment of collapse, when a thought becomes dominant and the field stops flickering across options. You learned that repetition, when paired with emotion and clarity, reprograms the subconscious. You saw how even a single doubt, if emotionally charged, can introduce decoherence and undo weeks of inner work. You explored somatic lockin, the necessity of getting the body to believe the new identity, not just the mind. You saw how posture, breath, tone, and movement broadcast as much signal as thought. You witnessed the paradox of surrender, that the final step is not control but release, because attachment is distortion. Only in stillness does the frequency remain clean. Then you journeyed through the multiverse, recognizing that timelines are not built from scratch. They are selected, and every version of your future self already exists. Your frequency is the key. Finally, you cultivated your daily rhythm, your quantum gardening practice, because no seed grows without a supportive field. No signal sustains itself without reinforcement. No identity becomes stable without repetition. All of it leading here, to the core truth, precision over force. This is the new era of conscious creation. One that is grounded in science, structure, and energetic coherence, not superstition or hype. You are no longer the beggar asking reality to deliver. You are the broadcaster. You are the tuner. And every moment you are selecting your experience, not by wishing for it, but by becoming the version of yourself who already lives it. That is the highest form of self-actualization. Now, let's ground this in real, tangible practice. To live by the quantum seed protocol is to adopt a different relationship with time, effort, and outcomes. You are no longer working toward outcomes from a distance. You are sourcing them through alignment. You are no longer trying to figure out how something will happen. You are stepping into the identity for whom it already has. You are no longer reacting to external feedback as confirmation. You are maintaining your internal alignment as the cause, not the effect. This is not passivity. It's mastery. You still act. You still choose. You still engage. But your action is now broadcast, not effort. Your choices are reinforcements, not reactions. Your engagement is resonance, not struggle. And reality bends to meet the signal. So where do you begin from here? You begin with the one thing you now know holds all the power, your frequency. Not your mood, not your attitude, your stable, energetic state. That state is composed of your dominant thoughts, emotional baseline, body language, nervous system tone, subconscious programs, core identity model. Adjust any one of these with enough consistency, and your frequency changes. Change your frequency and your timeline changes. You don't need permission. You don't need evidence. You need coherence. Here's a closing ritual to make this actionable. Quantum reset protocol. Pause. Become aware of your current internal state. Where are you broadcasting from? Feel. Shift into the emotional signature of your chosen identity. Not fantasy, frequency. Breathe. Anchor that feeling into your body. Let your posture update. Affirm. Speak a simple statement that reflects the reality you're aligned with. This is who I am now. Make one immediate decision, however small, that reinforces this identity. Repeat this process throughout your day. Let it become your rhythm, your new normal. Let it stabilize your seed. Remember, the universe is not testing you. The field is not withholding anything from you. There are no secret judges or mysterious delays. There is only signal and response. That's it. The moment you master your signal, you stop reacting to life and begin selecting it. You stop chasing certainty and start transmitting it. You become the clear signal that no longer fluctuates, doubts, or waits. You become the creator who doesn't force, only plants with precision, and then lets reality organize around that seed. This is the new path. This is the new paradigm. This is the quantum frontier of self-evolution. You're not here to hope. You're here to tune, to transmit, to select, and to become.